Thank you for joining us for today's presentation, Be Red Cross Ready, Caregivers and Home Fires Preparedness. This special presentation will help caregivers better prepare for emergencies. We would like to thank our presenters, Ryan, Amy, and Karen, for sharing their time and expertise with us today.
We are going to be covering a lot of information. Do not worry about that. The goal is to tape record this and make it available for you to return at another time, to focus in on certain content, and to allow yourself the grace to take things one at a time when you can. So with that, we understand that today we're going to go through one piece of information after another, and we're going to do it comprehensively. So don't be overwhelmed. It's okay. We understand that this is going to take some time to get through, and we're here to support you through the process. Just because we're recording it today, we're not going away. We're going to be here with you. So what are we covering today? We're going to first talk about what kind of emergencies that you might be experiencing. We're going to talk about creating a team to support you. Remember, at MBCN, it's all about taking care of ourselves so we can take care of our loved ones. And creating a network to support ourselves is really important. In addition, we want to make sure that that network can start supporting you now in the preparedness process. And then, of course, when disaster strikes, that they're there to support you through the disaster and through recovery. Now, we're going to spend the second half of the presentation focused on the most important disaster that everybody faces in the United States, and that's a home fire. And we're going to apply these principles to that specific topic so that we can drill in and go through things that you can start doing right now at your home to be prepared and to prevent fires from occurring. Next slide, please. We're going to go ahead and watch a short video, and then Amy is going to go ahead and start into our formal presentation.
How prepared are you? From fast-moving wildfires to slow-moving hurricanes, crippling winter weather to dangerous heat waves. From powerful tornadoes to devastating earthquakes, record flooding, destructive home fires, and many more unexpected hazards. Hazards are inevitable, but with the right kind of preparation, you can lessen their impact and make a difference. How prepared are you to protect what matters most? Most people say they're not prepared, but that they want to be. And others have started to prepare, but don't know what steps to take next. That's why we created the Be Red Cross Ready program. We'll provide the instruction, information, and experiences you need to be prepared to protect what you care about most. Gain knowledge and skills from Be Red Cross Ready preparedness experts in real time. We'll show you what hazards affect your community and tell you what you can do before, during, and after a disaster occurs so that you are ready to take action. And we'll practice ways to stay safe. Just by being here, you've taken the first step, because when you're prepared, you can protect what's most important to you. Prepare so you can protect yourself, your family, your community. Be Red Cross Ready. Prepare so you can protect.
Next slide, please.
Great, thank you, Karen. Again, my name is Amy Juarez, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So the first thing that we're going to look at this afternoon is which type of hazards do we face in the areas that we live. Depending on your region of the United States, different and sometimes multiple hazards are faced throughout the year. For example, in places such as California and Alaska, landslides can be prevalent, while in places like the Midwest, landslides aren't considered a hazard. Here where I am in Pennsylvania, we may see hurricanes, tornadoes, severe storms, flooding, and extreme heat and cold. Next slide, please. Across our country, people experience weather emergencies. So if you'd like, in the chat, you can type where you are and maybe an example of a hazard that you face in your area. Like I just shared, we do in Pennsylvania. There are 4 types of emergencies that can happen almost anywhere, regardless of where you live: home fires, flooding, thunderstorms and lightning, and extreme winter storms. There are both slow-moving and fast-moving hazards. Hurricanes, storms, and floods, they're considered slow hazards since they can be predicted and they can allow some time for you to prepare and evacuate if necessary. Tornadoes and home fires are considered fast emergencies, and home fires are certainly the fastest. The Red Cross responds to a fire once every 8 minutes in this country, and a fire can be a total loss, consuming a small home within just a few minutes. The fact is that disasters happen. They happen often, they happen with little or no warning, and then they can happen anywhere at any time. Next slide, please. So what does it take to be prepared? To be Red Cross ready, you need to do 3 things: get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. So when you get a kit, your kit should contain supplies that you will need at home, or you can easily carry with you if you have to evacuate. When you make a plan, you'll identify the steps you will take to respond to specific disasters. For each disaster, you can decide who in your household will do what, where you will go, and how you will communicate with each other. And when you're informed, it's very important to remain informed. So you'll learn how you will get information if a disaster occurs and what resources are available within your community. This will allow you to respond quickly to help yourself, your household, and your community. So as a caregiver, preparation is absolutely key. Creating a plan, being proactive in your communication, and staying informed is paramount to safety and security. Now we'll look at each of these in some more detail, and we'll go over some general tips for caregivers. Next slide, please. Why prepare? Preparing for emergencies now will give you the confidence and the ability to respond for emergencies more efficiently and effectively. It's very easy to say, especially with a busy schedule and caring for multiple people, it's easy to say, I'll do it one day or I'll do it later. But it's even more important to get it done if you are caring for someone else. But you don't need to do it alone. Prepare to protect yourself and the people that you care for. As the climate worsens and the number of disasters and their impact on communities will only increase. Because of this, it's more important than ever to prepare. People who care for others have the additional responsibility to also make sure that that person is also prepared. Creating and working with a team in advance can ensure your loved one's needs are continued to be met during a disaster. Let's learn about the people you should include in your team, and remember, ask for help, because you are not alone in this. Preparation could seem like an overwhelming activity, but if you start today and you follow through until your plan is complete, it can help ensure your preparedness and safety. Next slide, please. Building a team. Now is the time to build a team before anything happens. Disasters are often challenging and they can be quite chaotic in nature. So having the additional responsibility of taking care of someone else, maybe all by yourself or with others, may not be feasible. It's crucial to build a team to ensure that your loved one is taken care of during a disaster. We want you to think about who would be in your team, who would be included. Consider family members, neighbors, friends, work colleagues, neighborhood groups, faith-based groups, healthcare providers, service providers, and social service organizations, to just name a few. It's important to think outside the box when you're putting your team together. Go to your local police and fire departments. Talk to them, start to build these relationships, and go back regularly. Attend in person if possible, or even virtually, to things like commission board meetings in your area. Find out if there is a special needs registry for your area and how it is that you can register. Check out the local county and state websites. There can be a lot of very helpful information to find and be able to utilize. Check out your local social service agencies to see what they offer. Even if they may not help during an emergency, it can always help expand your network. You can also use social media to expand your local network. You can organize an online community forum such as Facebook to have a private group with residents who also might be caregivers to post local resources, new information, helpful articles. It can increase bonding amongst caregivers, enhance social opportunities with people in similar situations. Some of the team members will have larger roles in your plan, and some will have smaller roles, but they're all especially important during times of disaster. There are some wonderful resources online from places such as AARP and ready.gov to find some templates and ideas for planning and preparedness. So, as a caregiver, it's especially important to expect the unexpected. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about documentation. Having an understanding of your loved one's everyday needs, their routines, the medical conditions that they may have, any other healthcare information, it's essential in order to continue caring for them during a disaster. Write down your loved one's needs, their routines, their current medical conditions. Share them with your team members as appropriate. This makes sure that your team members can take care of your loved ones if you would be unavailable. For their needs, think of mobility limitations, maybe some physical or cognitive limitations, any safety concerns, transportation needs, social interactions and friendships. And also, don't forget about the pets or service animals and what to do with them in the time of an emergency. Make sure that you have veterinarian information and that they are up to date on all of their vaccinations and care. For routines, think about sleeping schedules, meals and snacks, bathroom routines, bathing and grooming habits, and entertainment preferences such as reading or music. Work with the person you care for when possible. And also, their healthcare team can help you create a list of health conditions and diseases and medications, any assistive devices that they might use, such as a cane or a hearing aid. Finally, document their healthcare information. And of course, their contact information for all of their providers, as well as medical insurance information. This can be a simple binder that's left in the home of the person that you're caring for, or you can do an online shared document or a care calendar. Again, there are some great templates available online for documenting care needs. In addition to having a binder in an online format, have a copy ready to go in your go bag in case of the need to quickly evacuate. Having these documents on hand and protected in a watertight container can make a transition from home to shelter or a hotel or the hospital much easier when everything is all in one place. Next slide, please. Now we're going to try to work together. So once you've identified who your team members are, discuss as a team how you can meet your loved one's needs together. This is the start of developing your emergency plan. Learning how to communicate with one another is absolutely essential. Make sure you have everyone's contact information written down as well as in your phone. Consider having an out-of-town contact person that all your team can call in case they cannot reach you. Encourage everyone, including your loved one, to share ways that they can help as well and any concerns that they might have. For example, the person you are caring for, they may have the ability to help prepare a meal, or maybe a neighbor could drive your loved one to an appointment. Everybody can have a role to play when it comes to being prepared. Make sure each member of your team is prepared themselves. Each team member should have their own go bag, an emergency contact card, and understand their role in the emergency plan. Also, keep in mind that if you have a member of your team that is struggling themselves due to a disaster, they might not be able to help. So make sure that you have a backup plan in place as well. Ensure that everyone knows their responsibilities ahead of time so that they can take action when disaster strikes. So we encourage you to write down everyone's roles and include it in your emergency plan. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk now about how to meet your loved one's needs during an emergency. You want to know and plan with your team how to receive alerts about a potential evacuation. It's only local authorities that issue evacuation notices, so it's a great idea to sign up to receive local emergency alerts for your area. Ensure that they are accessible and that you and your team know how to respond. You also want to know and plan with your team what to do in an evacuation. Where will you go? How will you get there? Where will you stay? What will you bring? What help do you need to travel? How will you be able to maintain vital medical care while you're away from the home? If evacuation is needed, remember that it's important to leave quickly when officials advise you to evacuate. So, an example can be is you could consider leaving early in order to avoid traffic and reduce any stress. You also want to know and plan with your team what to do if an evacuation is not issued, but you lose power. Can you stay safely at home without power? Will you need to use equipment that runs on electricity? Do you have a safe backup power supply? And how long will it last? Can you stay with a team member? And finally, you want to know and plan with your team how to maintain needed medical care. Talk with your loved one's doctor about how they can maintain vital medical care if clinics and pharmacies would be closed. So try to keep on hand at least 30 days of any medication and other needed medical supplies. Next slide, please. So, since we just started talking about medical supplies, we can talk about what emergency supplies need to be gathered. So, if a disaster strikes in your community, you might not have access to food, water, electricity, or a medical facility, or even a drugstore. Gathering emergency supplies ahead of time for your household and the person that you care for is crucial to keep everybody safe. You can organize supplies into a go kit, which you can easily take with you, as well as a stay at home kit. A go kit generally includes about 3 days of supplies that you can carry with you. Include backup batteries and chargers for your devices, such as your cell phone, if you use a CPAP machine or a BiPAP machine, your wheelchair, etc. And your stay at home kit should have at least 2 weeks of supplies should you have ongoing power outages because stores and pharmacies may be closed or damaged. So you'll want to create kits for your household and for the person that you care for. Try to include an item that brings your loved one comfort when they're stressed, maybe a favorite stuffed animal, a pillow, a blanket, a robe, maybe their favorite book, or even some games. So not all of these items can be permanently packed in your kit. So it's important to think about the items that might need to be packed prior to evacuating. For example, you might only have one set of eyeglasses or hearing aids or something like that. So it's a great idea to make a list of items that should be packed at the very last minute should you need to evacuate. What kind of items would you include in your kits? Feel free to share some ideas in the chat. Next slide, please. Some more information on emergency supplies for your go kit and your stay at home kit. To build your kit, think about the things that you use on a daily basis and what you might do if those resources were limited or not available. Start with the basics with food, water, clean air, any life-sustaining items that your household or the person that you care for would need. Um, Food and water for your go kit, it would be great if you could include about 3 days for your go kit, but just having like some protein bars or something like that in an emergency are great to put in there. And for at home, you should try to have a 2 week supply. Water is very important. You want to have 1 gallon per person in your household per day. And food, make it non-perishable and easy to prepare items. Medical needs, you want to be equipped to tend to any current or unexpected medical conditions your family may have. Make sure that you have a fresh and unexpired first aid kit. Um, Try to have a 1 month supply of any medications or medical items or supplies available to you. Keep copies of prescriptions with the dosages and the treatment information handy. And if you need battery backup power for power supported mobility devices or oxygen or other assistive technology needs, it's great to try to look into that. So for communications, you can have something like a battery powered radio or even a hand crank emergency radio, like an NOAA weather radio, cell phones and chargers, and any kind of backup batteries that you can have for those things as well. For tools and safety items, matches, flashlights with extra fresh batteries, battery operated lanterns, a multi-purpose tool, a whistle is always good. Hygiene and sanitation items are great. Hand sanitizers, towelettes, toothbrush, lotion, sunscreen, bug spray, things like that. Protective gear, like blankets or sleeping bags, extra clothing, sturdy shoes, work gloves, masks. If you have any young children in your home, any baby supplies or food, diapers, snacks that you might need. And don't forget to plan for your pets as well by having collars, leash, their ID, any food, a pet carrier if you have one, and a food dish. It's a great idea to have some extra cash and an extra set of keys on hand because ATMs might not be functioning, or you could lose your car keys somehow. Um, for some comfort items, it's great to have some things that don't require electricity or maybe are battery powered for entertainment purposes. A favorite stuffed animal or a comfortable pillow, and other games and activities. You'll want to make sure that your emergency supplies are updated regularly. A good time to remember is using the time change of fall back and spring ahead to make these updates. You can check your go bag or your in-home supplies. You can freshen anything that you have on hand, update the care plan, and update the communication information as well as the list of contacts. Next page, please. So plan to stay connected. Some hazards like tornadoes and flash floods require you to act immediately to stay safe. You need to find out right away about changing conditions to keep your loved ones safe. So here are some things that you can do. You can sign up for emergency alerts from your local government. They are the ones that issue any evacuation notices. You can download an emergency app by searching for the American Red Cross in your app store and set it up for alerts in your area. You can plan to follow watches and warnings, which are issued by the National Weather Service, and know how to respond to each one. So with a watch, a hazard may happen. You should get prepared and closely monitor the weather conditions. Now with a warning, that means that the hazard is happening now or will happen soon. So act fast to protect yourself and the person that you care for. Have a plan to keep your phone charged. During a disaster, it's very common for self-service to be limited. So if you don't know how to text, or if you're able to text, learn how to do it because phone calls might not go through and text messages can. So if separated or the phone or the internet is down, have a plan to communicate with loved ones and your team. Ensure that your team and the person that you care for has an emergency contact card and encourage them to carry it with them. You can see the example here on your screen. And then you can also find this online with the American Red Cross as well. You can consider getting an emergency battery powered radio and extra fresh batteries so you can stay informed during a power outage. Next slide, please. Following the disaster, there are dangers that you can face afterwards as well. Many injuries happen during the prolonged power outages and during cleanup. Remember that your team is there to help you, so be sure to check on each other. Plan to follow the advice of local public health officials. Have proper training before using machinery and wear protective equipment such as boots and gloves and masks. Prevent any carbon monoxide poisoning. So carbon monoxide poisoning is common after disasters because people will use other sources of power to heat and cook. So only use generators and grills and camp stoves outdoors and away from any windows. And don't use your oven to heat your home, and always have a working carbon monoxide detector in your home as well. It's a great idea to use flashlights instead of candles, and again, have extra fresh batteries on hand. And you can plan ahead to work with vetted and trusted resources. So, after a disaster, scammers and identity thieves and other criminals can try to take advantage of some people. So, if you're working with vetted and trusted resources, it can safeguard your personal and your financial information. Part of building your team could be to ask trusted family and friends for recommendations of contractors, plumbers, roofers, etc., and keep their contact information on hand. It's normal to have bad feelings, stress, and anxiety after a disaster or another emergency. Remember that your team is there to help you. Be sure to check in on each other. Be sure to care for yourself as well as the one you care for, because you can't give what you don't have. Eat healthy food, try to get enough sleep because these can help you deal with stress. And also know that you can contact the disaster distress helpline for free if you need to talk to somebody. The numbers here listed on your screen: 1-800-985-5990. You can work with your team to reestablish normal routines as soon as you can when it becomes available. And also, you can discuss with your team how you can improve any preparedness plans for future emergencies. Next slide. And I'm going to pass along the presentation to Ryan at this point.
Great. Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate that broad preparedness sort of essentials of what you're looking for. Again, whether you are providing care to a caregiver or just trying to prepare yourself and your family. There's a lot of great information in there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to transition to talking more specifically about home fire preparedness. That's one of those disasters that Amy spoke to earlier that is a quick response. You don't have a lot of time necessarily to prepare for that. However, we are going to go through some things that you can do to go ahead and prepare and mitigate home fires from potentially taking effect in your home. There are a few key lessons that we want you to take away from this lesson, and that includes knowing that you can reduce home fire risk in your home. Again, we want you to make sure that you know that you can take steps to help reduce home fires in your home. These include taking actions in the kitchen or with electrical appliances, and we'll talk about some others as well. We also want you to understand that working smoke alarms save lives. That's right, working smoke alarms save lives. In fact, they cut the risk of dying in a home fire in half. We're going to go and talk about those again a little bit. We also want you to know that you need to have and practice a home fire escape plan. In a home fire, you have less than 2 minutes to get out of your home safely. So just as Amy spoke to before about having some of those plans in place before a disaster takes place, having that home fire escape plan, which we'll speak to, is really important to have and discuss with your whole family. So let's go ahead and flip to the next slide and start by taking a look at some of the highest home fire risks. So as I said, some ways to reduce fire risk in your home include in the kitchen. Unattended cooking is responsible for 1/3 of the reported home fires. And some things that you should do is always stay in the kitchen when you're cooking something on the stove or in the oven, the toaster oven as well. You never want to leave anything burning unattended to go off to take a shower, talk to a neighbor, go downstairs and work on something. You want to make sure that if you're leaving the room, you turn the burners off. You can always come back and turn them back on. You also want to make sure that in this cooking process, again, you can use that sort of axiom there in the bottom, keeping an eye on what you fry. Again, remember, keep an eye on what you fry, and if you need to step away, turn it off. And as we're going to cover in just a little bit, while many home fires begin in the kitchen, another way that you can manage if a fire were to start there is installing fire extinguishers and having them specifically in the kitchen. A lot of hardware stores, department stores will have these at relatively inexpensive prices. And if you need help learning how to use a fire extinguisher, most local fire departments will actually support you with this training. So let's go ahead and flip to the next slide. So some other ways that you can reduce home fire in your home is that it's important to know that many home fires actually result as a response to malfunctioning or improperly used heating, electrical, or lighting equipment. So you can reduce these risks by making sure that anything that could catch fire, such as furniture, curtains, towels, clothing, anything that's sort of light and easily flammable, is kept at least 3 feet away from any heat source. That includes if you have a pellet stove, if you have a regular wood burning stove, or an electric appliance that's going to keep and warm up your room. You can remember this axiom to keep 3 feet from the heat. You want to make sure that you're also always plugging appliances directly into wall outlets. Appliances are things such as a refrigerator, a toaster oven, a toaster, not necessarily your cell phone and things like that. But when you are plugging things into the wall, again, you want to make sure that you're avoiding any extension cords for these larger items and not putting too many in place for other smaller items. If you need to get more electrical outlets in your home, please consult a qualified electrician to add more outlets in your home, again, rather than running extra extension cords throughout. You want to make sure that if you are running outlets or extension cords, that you don't plug in too many power strips or extension cords to daisy chain items into one outlet. That can overburden it, and it may, again, be a place where you'd result in a home fire. You want to make sure that these electrical cords that you're using aren't damaged. So if they're showing any significant signs of wear or tear, you can see the wires, for instance, that are fraying. Also, you want to make sure that you get rid of them and replace them. You also want to make sure that if you're running electrical cords, that you don't run them underneath carpets and that you don't attach them to a wall or any other surface by nails, and keep them just in general out of high traffic areas. Not only is it a fire risk, but it's a tripping hazard as well. So we'll go ahead and switch to the next slide. Another major concern with home fires is smoking. Failing to properly extinguish smoking materials, including cigarettes, pipes, cigars, is the leading cause of residential home fire deaths. If you or anyone you know smokes, that it can include guests, please encourage them to smoke outdoors. And if you do smoke indoors, you never want to smoke in bed or when you're drowsy on a sofa, somewhere again that's highly flammable. And you also want to make sure that you're not smoking in a room or in a home where somebody's using medical oxygen. Again, if you're going to be smoking, make sure you use deep, sturdy ashtrays and always put out the butts. You can give them a good dose of water before disposing of them, and that's best. You want to make sure too that you're keeping matches and lighters out of children's reach. Preferably keep these in a locked or a higher cabinet or closet where they're out of sight, out of mind. And if you do vape, please make sure that you do not leave these charging overnight or unattended, and make sure that you use the charger that comes with the unit, as there have been issues with sometimes these catching fire. If they're, again, like I said, left unattended, you want to make sure that you just are keeping an eye on your appliances. You also want to make sure that if anything is going to be wet or damaged, that you're not plugging that into an electrical outlet. Go into the next slide. So we've spoken to some of the major home fire causes, and we just want to go ahead and provide you an example of where some of those more likely the fires take place, and then also what are some of the leading home fire fatalities. As you can see here, cooking equipment is the leading cause of home fires and home fire related injuries. That accounts for about 19% of home fire fatalities. Again, a lot or most of the fires take place in the kitchen, which is again another reason why there are so many home fire fatalities as a result of those kitchen fires. Malfunctioning and improperly use of heating or electrical equipment or lighting account for about a quarter of the fires. And improper use would be something, again, like plugging an appliance into a extension cord or a surge protector and overbearing it, or potentially having something, again, that's very highly flammable too close to a heater or another device that may catch fire. And unfortunately, improper use of these electrical appliances results in 19% of home fire fatalities every year. And malfunctioning equipment that may just, for some reason or not, inadvertently catch fire account for about 16% of deaths. And now only about 5% of home fires are started by smoking materials. You can see that these are actually the leading cause of home fire fatalities. Oftentimes, again, if cigarettes are not properly put out, someone might be asleep, doze off, step out of the room, and a fire will take off. So again, you want to make sure you're properly putting those away. And again, the best option is if you're going to smoke, do it outside. So now let's go ahead and look at how smoke alarms can help save a life in the event of a home fire. Go to the next slide. Now that we've talked about the risks of home fires and safety tips for reducing them, I'm going to go ahead and cover the importance of working smoke alarms. You may not know, but the National Fire Protection Association, who's the leading authority on this research, shows that 3 out of every 5 home fire deaths happen in homes with either no smoke alarms or non-working smoke alarms. Again, that's 3 out of every 5 home fire deaths happen in homes with either no smoke alarms or not working smoke alarms. Maybe they took the battery out, maybe they were old and they just weren't functioning anymore. But again, that's 60%. So home smoke alarms can really make a difference in cutting fatalities down, which is why we began this program about 10 years ago to really bring down those home fire fatalities. Again, while that's so important, the positive is that having a working smoke alarm cuts down the risk of dying in a home fire by almost half. So these are some important things to know when installing a smoke alarm in your home. You want to make sure that you install them on every level of your home. So if you have a 3-story home and a basement, that's 1 on every level. You also want to have them inside of your bedrooms, and you want to have them outside your sleeping areas. So if you have a 2-story home and you have 3 bedrooms, you want to have 1 in every bedroom and then 1 on that level outside the bedrooms as well. It's highly recommended, if you can, that you have these alarms interconnected, meaning they may be hardwired and connected to another sort of monitoring system, such as a security system in the home. The advantage here is that when one alarm sounds, all of the alarms are going to sound. So if you happen to be upstairs and a fire takes place in the kitchen, you'll know about it from an alarm that's going off in the bedroom area. You want to make sure that you're testing these alarms monthly to make sure that they sound and that the battery hasn't gone bad or there was some malfunction that you need to replace them. You should replace the batteries in the smoke alarms at least once a year for those requiring battery replacement. Many of the newer units have lithium-ion batteries in them. They're inside the unit. They do not need to be replaced. And these are the ones that the Red Cross installs. They're actually good for 10 years from the time that you install the smoke alarm. Having said that, you really should be replacing your smoke alarms about every 10 years. Typically, that's what the manufacturer is going to provide as a warranty on the devices. So please check your units at home when we're done here and see, when did you install them? How old are they? And is it time to go ahead and maybe replace them and put some new ones up in your household? And I know it can be tempting to disconnect a smoke alarm after it sounded because something you're cooking creates too much smoke, or maybe you have a lot of candles going. However, you never want to disable a smoke alarm, even temporarily. All smoke alarms are going to have a silence or a hush feature on them, so you can go ahead and push that to quiet the alarm. And what you might find is that if you're experiencing frequent false or nuisance smoke alarms going off, you may consider relocating these units to another location, such as if it's too close or if it's in the kitchen, you may look to put the smoke alarm in your dining room a little bit further away. Bathrooms, because of the steam, are not really great areas for smoke alarms either. So if you have one in there or just outside, you may need to move those smoke alarms. One thing the American Red Cross is involved in, and many other organizations around the country are as well, is providing smoke alarms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. And these include bed shaker and strobe light alarms. What you can do is reach out to the Red Cross at 1-800-RED-CROSS. Apologies, we don't have that here on the slide, but it should be pretty easy to remember. Again, that's 1-800-RED-CROSS. And we do have some materials that we're going to be posting on the Caregiver Network after this that has that information in there as well. So feel free to give us a call. We install them free of charge, and we'll set up an appointment to come out to your home to do so. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So everyone in your household needs to know what to do when the smoke alarm sounds. It's not good enough just to have them. You need to know what action you should take. So if a fire starts in your home, again, you may have less than 2 minutes to escape quickly from your home. When you do so, you need to get out of the home and you need to stay out. Again, get out, stay out. Please do not go back in. You want to leave everything behind, get out as quickly as you can, and again, never go back into a burning building. If a smoke or fire blocks one of your ways out, use another way out, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. If you must go through the smoke, get low and go under the smoke to escape, preferably using a cloth, maybe that's wet, to go ahead and cover your mouth while escaping, so that helps you to breathe as you're leaving. Again, you would get low. Everyone in your household should plan to meet at a designated safe meeting place. We'll talk about that shortly. And when you get there, you want to call 911 from that safe meeting place outside your home. And just as I tell our youth when we do our education programs, only the fire department can let you know when it is safe to re-enter your home. So please, again, be mindful when you get out, stay out of the home. Let's go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about making fire escape plans for your home. Each room should have 2 exits, such as a door and a window. One room that might not have 2 exits in your home would be a bathroom. Sometimes that comes up in conversation. But all the other rooms for your home, again, should have at least 1 doorway and a window that you should allow for quick escape. If your home has security bars on it, you should make sure that these bars have an emergency release device so that they can be opened quickly and immediately in case of an emergency. And if you're going to be on a 2nd floor, you want to make sure that something that is highly recommended and is not very expensive considering the ability to get out in case of a fire would be an escape ladder. These would just simply attach to a 2nd floor window and would again allow you a second way to get out that's safer. It's also important to keep these escape routes free of clutter and of any tripping hazards. Home fire starts at any time of day or night. It's not a good time to start trying to clean up your pathways as a fire starts in the middle of the night and the power might be out. You want to do that now so that, again, not just yourself, but everyone in your home, including those who might have mobility issues, can get out safely and quickly. Again, as you saw here, we have the doors and the windows. We're going to talk a little bit more about exiting as well as a safe meeting place in just a moment. And I did also mention just before that we are going to have some of these resources on the Military Care Veterans Network portal. And so you're going to have your own home fire escape plan template, which you can print out, draw on, and work with your family to go ahead and complete. And please put that somewhere prominent so everybody knows where it is. Let's go to the next slide. So again, knowing how to get out of your home is only one part of the escape plan. A home fire can be, again, a very confusing time, and it makes all members of the home need to respond quickly. That's why you need to have one specific set safe meeting place where everyone will meet in the event of a home fire. You want to identify this location to be a safe distance from your home, not on the front porch, but maybe on the neighbor's porch just across the street. You want to, again, make sure that that's in either the front or the back of your home, depending on how your home's situated to the street. And you want to make sure that it's a place that you could easily meet firefighters, police, other first responders who may be coming to your home because they're going to be looking for you out on the street corner when they arrive. And again, make sure that when you get to that safe meeting place, that's when you call 911 when you're outside of your home. In the chat, please feel free to share where you have a safe meeting place in the event of a home fire. If this is something you've already worked on and talked with your family. If this is something you still need to do, maybe some of those individuals sharing their locations in the chat can give you some ideas for your home. As you can see in the slide here, the family's safe meeting place is going to be at the oak tree which is just in front of their neighbor's house. It looks like the Gomez family that's just right across in their front of their home. So again, your home might be situated differently if you're in an urban environment or if you're out, in a more rural area, but everyone should identify one fixed place where they would meet in case of a fire. Let's go to the next slide, please. And it's vital that your escape plan works for everyone in the household. You want to make arrangements for infants, children, older adults, and individuals with disabilities or access and functional needs who are going to need assistance to escape during a home fire. You want to make sure that everyone in the household is assigned, excuse me. You want to make, sorry. That should be better. You want to make sure that everyone in the household is assigned to have someone who can help if there's an individual who needs assistance. And if that main primary person isn't going to be in your home, you want to have a backup person in case who's there to help. So as you can see in the example here, we have the family with a 2-year-old son who's going to require assistance to evacuate. That mom is going to be the primary person to help, and dad would step in if mom is not there. You want to take a moment now to think about who in your household might need assistance to escape during a home fire. Think about, do you already have someone assigned to do this support? And if not, who might be that primary person? Who would be the backup person? And what would that support look like? If you have some of these plans already in place, again, please feel free to share these in the chat because it could help other individuals with coming up with some ideas and plans for themselves. One last thing I want to leave you with is a reminder that smoke alarms may not always wake up all family members. Children and individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing may not notice or acknowledge what the smoke alarm is when it's going off, or may not even hear it. So again, you may need to have someone who's actually physically going in to check in the rooms to make sure that individuals are getting out safely. One last thing, it's always great to practice these plans with your pets. If you have a dog and you turn on that smoke alarm, I'll guarantee you that as everybody's going out of the house, they'll start to learn as you practice with the rest of your family. So let's go to the next slide. All right, there's a few more important things that you should know about escaping from your home in case of a fire, particularly if you're in a room that's behind closed doors, and if you've got smoke or fire that you can tell is outside of the door. Before you even leave your room, if you have the door shut, you do want to check for smoke coming along through cracks or underneath the door. And before opening your door, you want to feel the door with the back of your hand, see if it's hot. Again, the door, not the door handle. Door handle might get pretty hot a lot quicker than the rest of the door. And if you're sensing either of these things, the smoke coming through or the door being hot, that's when you want to go ahead and take advantage of your second way out, which may be another door or a window. As a last resort, if you're unable to evacuate, you want to seal your door by placing a cloth around the cracks or openings. So maybe on the bottom side of the door, you want to block all your air vents, and you want to call 911 from your room. Let them know where you are, what side of the home you are, how high up you are. And if you can, signal for help from your window. Put a light colored cloth or flashlight there. Get attention, be loud. That way, individuals, family, neighbors, and first responders are going to know that you're there and they need to come in to help rescue. And again, this is something that you can practice and should practice with everyone in your house. Let's go to the next slide. Sorry, second. So once the plan is complete, written down, and you share it with your whole household, you want to make sure that this is practiced at least twice a year. A good time to remind yourself to do this is when your clocks spring forward or fall back, and you should be practicing both during the day and at night or in other weather conditions, because again, you can never predict when a home fire may begin. You want to remember that for anyone with access, functional needs, or disability, to have somebody there to help provide that extra personal support and practice doing that in your home fire escape plans. Again, you want to practice all the parts of your drill so that when it comes to the real thing, you are feeling calmer and more prepared. Practice makes it perfect and makes it better for everyone in the family. If you're not feeling comfortable with your plan, you can reach out to local fire departments who may be able to provide you with some support, both ideas, as Amy spoke to earlier in the presentation, there may be registries about individuals who may need additional support escaping in the time of a home fire, if they're low mobility, for instance. Let's go to the next slide. And we want to make sure, of course, when we include the whole family, that we are making sure that we are practicing with children and that we're explaining to children what it is we're doing and why it is we're doing it. You may not know, but children under 5 are actually twice as likely as other people to die in a home fire. Children need to be confident in their ability to prepare for and react to a home fire. And you can do this, again, by teaching them about the dangers of a home fire, making sure that they understand that things like matches and lighters are not toys. And you can be working with to teach them that what the smoke alarm sounds like and how to react and what to do when that alarm goes off. You want to make sure that each child knows and practices at least 2 ways to escape from every room, and that they know where your designated safe meeting place is, and that they should stay there once they get there. Again, emphasize the idea of get out and stay out. If you have escape ladders, again, you want to make sure that those are stored near windows and you teach everyone in your household how to use them. And if you have bars on your windows or doors, make sure that you practice and show the children how to use them. And again, make sure that everyone knows how to call 911. Many children, even as young as 5, might have a phone. And if they do, and they're calling 911, they should also know what their home address is. And they should know, again, to reemphasize, to do that once they've gotten out to that safe place outside their home. For the next slide. So again, we want to leave you with just a little bit more information about reviewing how you can stay safe and keep your household safer in the event of a home fire. Again, make that home fire escape plan. We have templates that you're going to be able to access through the portal, so please take a look at those when we're done here today. Make sure that you go in and test your home fire, your smoke alarms on a monthly basis. Again, you may need to add some smoke alarms. As I spoke to before, you want to have one on every floor of your home, at least one in every floor of your home, and one in every sleeping area. That's a bedroom, or if you have a converted basement, that's a sleeping area or another room. Please, again, make sure that you have a smoke alarm in those rooms as well. And again, make sure you're practicing your home fire escape plan with everyone in your house. So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. And with that, we're going to leave a few moments for any questions that may have come through either on the chat during the presentation, or if you want to put something in the Q&A, we're happy to address those now. I did see that Amy was busy sharing some information in the chat. So Amy, thank you for doing that. But we'll leave this open and feel free to, I think you'll have to type your messages in there, but we'll give that a moment if you have any thoughts that you want to either convey, things that you'd like to share from your own experiences, or questions that you might have about how to get your home and your family better prepared. This could be, again, for home fires or just general disaster preparedness as you are helping to support your family in a caregiver capacity. And we're always happy to answer more questions. When we get to the last slide shortly, we'll have our contact information. You can always reach out to us then. I did just want to leave you with one last resource. If we go to the next slide. The American Red Cross built the emergency app to help people better prepare for emergencies. This provides alerts and warnings, as Amy spoke to the importance of those earlier, for things such as thunderstorms, tornadoes, flooding. You can set it to be a hyperlocal, so it attached to your city or your zip code. You can also set it up for when you're traveling, to set up to locations that you may be visiting or to family members to get alerts and warnings for where they live. Again, it monitors for severe weather, and it also is going to provide those monitoring tools both in English and in Spanish. You're gonna see in there that there's, again, different alerts and warnings that can be provided, but not just the alerts and warnings, but step-by-step guides for these hazards. So again, if you're looking for additional information and you live in an area that's particularly prone for tornadoes, there's going to be additional details about how to be prepared in the event of a tornado. Same as we move into hurricane season on the East Coast, there's additional steps and actions you can take. It's a step-by-step guide. It's fairly intuitive, and it actually, again, is allow you to check things off, and it'll give you templates and other tools to get yourself and your family more prepared for these disasters. We'll go ahead and move to the last slide. And as we leave you at the end of the webinar, again, we just want to make sure that we leave you with our contact information. I have my email there as well as Amy's. We have the Military Veteran Care Network's Red Cross email here as well. And then we've also included the Be Red Cross Ready group login site where you can go ahead and get additional resources. So that concludes everything that I have for the presentation. We'll stick around for just a little bit if anybody had any last minute questions or concerns. But thank you for joining us here today. We hope you found this information valuable. And we really hope that you'll continue coming back to learn more about how you can make yourselves better prepared to be Red Cross ready disasters, including others. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karen, Amy, Ryan. This was a wonderful presentation. And for our many caregivers that will see this, I just want you to know that this recording will live in our online community. We know we just gave you a lot of information and you have a lot to do as caregivers. So please take time to reflect on this. If you have further questions, the MVCN online community will have a group called Be Red Cross Ready for Caregivers, where we'll continue to introduce tools, this recording, and other wonderful resources from our partners on how you can best prepare yourself, your loved ones, your family, and your pets for disasters that may occur in your community. And again, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We appreciate it. And thank you for all you're doing as caregivers. Please have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks all.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.